Today we want to construct an orthocenter of a triangle. This is also found on page 408. The points of intersection of the altitudes is called the orthocenter. Note when you find two altitudes where they intersect, you have found the orthocenter for a circle. We're going to construct altitudes from the vertex to the opposite side. And so when I do this, sometimes when I want to cut arcs, I may have to extend a side. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to extend the line for XY. I'm going to extend this out in this direction. That side will be extended out there. Because I want to come down from point Y, and I want to cut two arcs on side XC. And I don't have my compass open quite enough, so I'll open my compass some more. And so when I cut these arcs, you'll notice one of these arcs is outside of my triangle. Then I will come down using my new points and cut arcs below. And the same thing over here. Cutting arcs below, and for some reason, we go back and check. All right, there's my point of intersection. There's my arc. There's my point of intersection. There's my arc. When I draw this, connecting vertex Y with this point, this is the altitude. Looks like I'm a little bit off on my Y right there, so I'm going to try to straighten it up. Let's try a pencil with a better point. From point Y down. Okay, this is perpendicular. Notice it's not a perpendicular bisector of the side. It's a perpendicular bisector of these two segments we've marked off. Now, that's one perpendicular. That means that's an altitude. That's a line from a vertex perpendicular to the opposite side. So I need another altitude. So I'm going to do an altitude for, let's do an altitude for XY. So if I cut arcs above and below X, and then I cut arcs above and below Y, when I connect these points, this point and this point, it will be perpendicular, and it should also go through a Z. If I have done this correctly, there's Z, and these two are just, it looks like a tad off, but not so much that I'm too worried about that. Oh, might help if I didn't move my ruler. Okay, this is the perpendicular to this vertex. So this is an altitude. Now, if I find an altitude for YZ, again, all three should intersect at the orthocenter. I'm going to call this point O for the orthocenter. And we're going to try to do an altitude for YZ. I'm going to cut arcs from both sides of Y and Z. I really don't have to have another point inside like I did here. It's okay if you do, but it's not necessary because I'm wanting to go to my vertex X. So I'm wanting to go through X. Ooh, something tells me that I'm way off. For some reason, I don't believe that this is perpendicular. Do you? So I can't just do that, can I? I can't just do the perpendicular bisector. To do the altitude, we have to find perpendicular, and then we draw the line from the vertex perpendicular to the opposite side. So something's not right. All right, let's see if we can figure out what I did wrong. Maybe you can help me. Let's think about what was I doing here. I needed a perpendicular bisector for this side. I'm sorry, I needed a altitude from this side. That means that I need a line segment that goes from this vertex perpendicular to that side. So I need to drop my arcs from that vertex. So we messed up, didn't we? We messed up here. So I'm going to erase because I made a mistake. And guess what? That's what erasers are for. Nobody's perfect but God. We all make mistakes. So I'm going to start this over. I know that this is an altitude because I first found the perpendicular from the vertex. So if I'm wanting to find a perpendicular from vertex X, then I may have to extend another line to cut arcs from X. So let's go over here and extend this line. I didn't think about this when I was doing it. It really would help, and I can't explain to you this enough, if I were looking straight down on it, because when I'm not, it's hard for me sometimes to see what I'm doing. All right, I want to cut arcs that intersect that side. And when I cut the arcs that intersect that side, I do get two new points. And these points are going to be equidistant from the perpendicular. So I need to cut some arcs. Let's make this smaller. Make it even smaller now. Using this as my point, I want to cut an arc, and it's running up here into the word. Sorry about that. And then using this as my point, I want to cut an arc. Again, I'm running into my words. Sorry about that. But I think if we can get this in the right place, it's really hard to tell. We can see with these two, they actually intersect here. And then if I connect that with vertex X, we're going to connect this with vertex X. I do believe it will be an altitude this time. I messed up before, but this will be an altitude. Now, because I did a perpendicular bisector here, this one came out, the altitude there was right. But what did I tell you? If you have two altitudes where they intersect, this will be your orthocenter, O. And I've erased it now, but you could probably look back and see where this was the third altitude. Sorry about that. This has probably been confusing for you, but this is one you definitely will want to practice, and this